Good evening, YouTube and Periscope. Dutyron back in tonight with another video. And tonight we're going to talk about the Lori Vallow. I like to call her Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell hearing that happened today in Idaho between the prosecutor, Rob Wood, and the defense attorneys. This happened all day today, along with a lot of other earth-shattering things that went on in Washington, D.C. My name is Dutyron, retired New York City police detective with 20 years of law enforcement. And tonight, we're going to talk about this. We're going to get right into it. But if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, so you will get all things Dutyron when I go live and when I upload another video. Again, share this video, like, and subscribe. I want to say a special thank you to my Patreon supporters, my channel members, and everybody who supports me through positive interaction down below in the comment section, and also by leaving kind words in the chat. Hello to Dookie 4000. My moderators, Mimi J2 is in the building. Great to see you. Josh over on Periscope. I have two very special guests. I'll introduce them in a little bit. They are seasoned law enforcement, NYPD. One is a retired homicide detective and a sex crimes detective. She is a chock full of information. And our great friend Bill Cannon, a retired sergeant from Manhattan North Homicide. I'll introduce them in a few moments, but I want to just say a little bit off the cuff here, and I'm not taking anything from police off the cuff. Bill Cannon's show. I want to take a minute to talk to you about what happened today in Washington, D.C. I'm not going to get into politics, although this is going to be just a tad bit political, but I do want to speak to my membership and the people who are in fear. I received probably close to 100 emails and messages today during the day from very worried and scared viewers, and some people who are looking to me for answers or my thoughts. I just want to say I do not obviously condone what happened today. Any type of violence, I don't condone, whether it's coming from the left or the right. I am all for peaceful protesting. That's part of our constitutional right. And what happened today in our nation's capital was despicable and horrific. Now, we don't know, because it's too early on, who was responsible. Like, you can't put your finger and pinpoint exactly who was responsible for it. But what I know is what I saw was difficult to watch and frightening on many different levels. And at the end of the day, we had all summer long this type of behavior going on in all of our major cities. But the only difference between today and over the summer was people's businesses were being burned. People were getting killed. Retired captains who was working security was shot and killed. A retired, respected captain. There's so many people who were murdered over the course of these violent demonstrations that have been going on all throughout our country, all summer long. Actually, just a short time after Memorial Day of 2020. So at the end of it all, folks, this is all I'm going to say about this is something that is not part of what America is all about. And I feel that we need to just get behind the process, embrace it, and be peaceful. That's the thing. You can voice your opinion, you can talk about your feelings. When it comes to smashing windows at the Capitol, when it comes to going in and breaking and entering and doing all kinds of crazy stuff, I can never get behind that. So, guys, that's all I'm going to say about that. If you have anything else that you're concerned with, please do me a favor, send me an email, go on to my website, dutyron.com, and I'd be happy to have an engagement with you in that regard. Okay, let's get right into the preliminary hearing, the hearing that went on today in Idaho. This was with Mark Means, the defense attorney for Lori Vallow Daybell, and John Pryor. He had objections to Rob Wood, the prosecutor, interviewing a witness, and I believe it was Lori's sister, and it was a conversation that was had behind the scenes that these two defense attorneys got to probably together and said, "Hey, we really don't have much where we can defend our clients in the charges that are brought forward to them, but we sure do have this." And it's called picking at straws, in my opinion. And I'm not a homicide detective, and I'm not a prosecutor, but I've been around a lot of prosecutions over the course of my time, and I've seen a lot of things that go on in a lot of the interviews, the pre-trial prep, and the things of that nature. And I'll talk to my guests about this. So we'll talk about pre-trial prep and some of the things that go on behind the scenes. But as police officers and as detectives and investigators, we really don't get involved in the interviewing of the witness once the prosecution takes over. So that being said, I'm going to play just a small clip, guys, of the audio recordings. This is enough to peel paint, but I'm going to play it because I think you guys should hear a little bit of this, and this will give you an idea of what the argument is over. So I'm only going to play a few minutes of it. I won't play it in its entirety because it's 18 minutes long, but I'm going to play it so this way you guys can hear it. Hi, Mary London, all the way from the UK. Great to see you. 70 people here. Please share, like, and subscribe. Let's get some folks in here and let's spread the word. All right, let me play this quickly for you.
The kids' case because they were last seen in Rexburg. Or were last living in Rexburg.
Right.
Tylee was last seen in Yellowstone, but and so we were.
This is the prosecutor talking
about the case, and so they assigned us on that. I'm just going to tell you right now, we are going to be filing conspiracy to commit murder charges against both Chad and Lori.
Good.
And we're not shy about that. I've told their attorneys.
Okay.
His attorney keeps pretending like I've never said that. Whatever. But we have to.
Yeah.
We have to. But I kind of want to give you like a little bit of background of where we are, and kind of like our kind of theory of how this ended up where it was. We know that this is not the same Lori everyone else knew. What's so strange to me is everyone we talked to who knew Lori before this, right? Well, she was primary president. She made quilts for these kids. She made everything fun.
And then he called me when Lori got transferred.
Did you ever meet Chad?
So I met him once at a preparing people. I went to one preparing people thing, and my mom and husband and I went to support Lori, and she wanted to support Mel. So we went and met Chad after he talked for like 90 seconds, maybe, if that. And then he called me when Lori got transferred to the Idaho jail. He texted me and said Lori wanted to talk to me, and I was like, yeah. And then the second I hung up with her, he called me to ask me about bail for Lori. So I've talked to him maybe 3 times briefly on the phone, never a long extended conversation. But the first thing he said to me when he called me was that he said, Lori hasn't told me very much about the kids, so there's not really much I can tell you about it.
Right, of course you said that. Well, welcome to Chad Daybell. So what I want to
I have my own opinions formed of him.
I bet you do.
Yeah.
He's highly manipulative.
Yeah, I see that.
I'm not going to say he's highly intelligent, but you don't have to be highly intelligent to be highly manipulative.
Absolutely.
He is extremely manipulative, and
okay, I'm going to spare you guys the rest of that. The rest of that Zoom meeting. I listened to some highlights of it, and for me, it was just like watching paint dry. It was like someone scraping their nails on a chalkboard. It's exhausting. So I'm going to bring in my guests now. We're going to talk about it. I have Irma Rivera. She is a 26 plus year veteran of the NYPD. She retired as a first grade homicide detective. And Sergeant Bill Cannon, a fan of the show. You guys have seen Bill many, many a times. Guys, if you can, unmute your mics. Welcome into the live stream. Hello, Bill. Hello,
Hello.
Irma. Thank you so much for joining.
Glad to be here.
Hi.
Hey, Bill. Hey, hi, Irma. Thank you so much for coming. Don't
Hi.
worry about it. We all have technical
Okay.
difficulties. Trust me, I'm a whole ball of wrong when it comes to technology. Bill
Right.
knows that. That's why he's laughing at me. But Bill, what were your feelings about today up at the Capitol? Just quickly, we won't go a lot into this, and then I'll get to Irma on that.
You know, I was pretty much horrified by it too. But on the heels of the summer we had and all the attacks on the police and everything, it's some of the same people that are so outraged by this weren't saying a word over the summer about the things. But I'm as outraged at this as I was with the attacks on the police and the fires and tearing down statues and torching businesses.
Torching police stations.
Yeah, all of those things. And I was as outraged today with this as I was with all of that. I wish just some of the other people had voiced their opinions over the summertime, you know.
Absolutely. Irma, thank you. Welcome to the show. First time here. Everyone's excited to have you. Just briefly, what was your take on what happened down there today?
I feel the same way. You know, either party, whether it's Republican or Democrat, I just think that right now there's no law and order. And I think people have to just like be quiet for a little while, make some peace, and just everybody stop fighting. You know, it does make a difference. And I won't be surprised if anybody from Al-Tifa was also involved in that. I really don't know.
I agree, Irma. You know, it's like we've been around a long time. I'm going to be 57 years old this year. There's been many elections that my president that I voted for didn't win. And I just ate a bowl of humble pie or whatever you want to call it. And I just said, you know what, these 4 years, I'm going to be around a long time. Hopefully we'll get through it. And it's going to be the same thing here with our new president. If you didn't vote for him, or if you did, you're happy. If you didn't, you're not. You know, that's the thing is we have to honor the process. And that's what I was saying to all my fans when people are sending me messages, is the world coming to an end? No, it's not coming to an end. There's not going to be martial law. We're going to get things under control and we're going to move forward. But yeah, it is what it is. And I just wanted to get your take on it, both of you guys' take, and I appreciate you touching on that. But tonight we're here to talk about the proceedings, the hearing that went on between Judge Stephen Boyce and Rob Wood, the prosecutor. He had his sidekick Troy Evans there with him and the defense team, and they brought in their experts. I'll start with you, Bill. Tell some of the audience about what goes on in these defense attorneys when they have a strong case against their client and they know that their backs are against the wall with strong circumstantial evidence, strong evidence with the kids being recovered on his property. What's some of the game plans with these attorneys? They're picking at straws here, is what I see.
Yeah, I think that they were using these tactics to go after the prosecutor because the case is just so strong against them. And a lot of times you'll hear things about circumstantial evidence, and just to define it, circumstantial evidence is evidence in which you can infer things occurred, Right. But circumstantial evidence, when it's piled up real high, it's very, very strong evidence. For example, the two kids were missing. They flee to Hawaii. The kids are found on his property. I mean, the bodies of the kids are found on his property. Ridiculously strong circumstantial evidence. The fact that they, lawyered up immediately, got counsel immediately. Very strong circumstantial evidence that they had something to do with this. And I mean, even the charges, destruction, alteration, and concealment of evidence, those are charges that they put forth because they don't want to swing for the fences yet. If they can put them away for these charges, they can still go for the charge of murder at a later date. But you only get one swing at the pitch, So, look, do you think they'd have $1 million bail if these charges were as such?
Bill, I just want to stop you just for 2 seconds because you hit on something tremendous. Now, a lot of my viewers and subscribers and people who I see in other chat groups and other content creators, I look at some of the chats, or sometimes I join and I'm silent and just listening. That's a sticking point that many people don't talk about. as a seasoned homicide investigator, as you are, and as Irma is, and myself as a warrant squad detective, I know that, a lot of times cases get built after you have a person in custody. Many of the people we take in the New York City Police Department, we take them in on lower charges. And then as we have them in custody, we're able to bring forward more charges to charge higher charges. And I feel strongly that this is the probability in this case. Irma, what's your take on that?
I agree. I think that the fact that they have both of them, once like they get charged with this case, I believe that one of them will come forward. Hopefully, the woman will come forward and, say what happened. But I really strongly believe that when they're both arrested and they both get charged and they both get convicted, at some point more information is going to come up.
Yeah. And Bill, continue on your thought there, because I know I interrupted you, but that was tremendous what you brought up, unbeknownst to you. But that's a lot of people don't get that part. They're like so frustrated, regular women and men that are home or armchair detective kind of people. They're like, hey, they found human, the children were dismembered and burned and duct taped and buried on their property. That's horrific. Why aren't they charged with murder?
Right.
And for a normal person, I know if I had no law enforcement experience, I'd be outraged myself.
Right.
We know.
Also, there's no statute of limitations to murder. So as you said, we can convict them on this charge.
Right.
Put them on ice. And then, something when Irma hit the nail on the head, they may offer a plea to Lori Vallow and say, look, we feel that Chad Daybell had you under some kind of religious spell. He was a sort of Svengali type thing, and you was maybe not in the right mental frame of mind. We're willing to cut you a deal. And the deal in this case may be just that you're not going to get the death penalty, because this is a death penalty case.
Oh, yeah.
So they can hold that overhead and say, look, you come forward and testify against him. We'll cut you. You won't get the death penalty.
Yeah. So it's like a leverage thing. And one of the positives that I saw too is that, she obviously, by law, you're going to retain your own counsel. He had his own counsel, but they're going to try in the middle of this. It was up in the air whether they were going to have two separate trials for these two, but they decided to combine them together. Irma, what's your thoughts on that? And is that good or is that bad?
I think it's good, because I think that one of the other attorneys, if I was her attorney, I would try and get her to take a plea on that case, even if they're going to try it together.
Right.
And try and get her to turn on him, which
for the listening audience, Irma, taking a plea, would you explain that because we know it, but the audience doesn't know it?
That means that she'll plead guilty to whatever charges the district attorney decides to charge her with, or she decides to accept,
For cooperation.
Right. And for her cooperation, exactly. And then at that point, she can tell them whatever happened, and she will never get any other charge against her.
Right.
So if she turns on him, that's what if I was her attorney, I would want that. I would try and get her a plea and have it turn against him.
So is it almost?
Dutyron, she's no Little Red Riding Hood.
Oh, she's not. No.
But she's maybe the most sympathetic toward the jury, and
Right,
he is probably the evil, religious zealot that had her under this powerful spell.
But we really don't know that. We really don't know what she's like. She's been married 5 times. Her brother's been everybody. Oh, her ex-husbands are dead. There might be more to her too. She could be a female, killer. Who knows?
Right.
We don't know.
And what we saw over the course of this is everybody in Lori Vallow's way that didn't go along with her cult-like beliefs. And it seemed like it got intense when she got together with Chad Daybell. Anybody and everyone who didn't go along with her beliefs, it seems like they mysteriously disappeared or became ill and died. Mm-hmm. And look at what happened when the two of them started dating. They were both married. Chad Daybell was married to his wife. She died in her sleep. And they ruled it as natural causes. But then after the fact, they remove, they exhumed the body, and they're not saying what's going on with that case. And also Lori Vallow's husband, you brought it up to me, Bill. he also, under mysterious circumstances, all of a sudden he's gone. She's on number 5 with Chad Daybell. She's
And
on
her
husband number.
brother. And her brother also.
The brother kills in an argument her husband, and then mysteriously, the brother now has a heart aneurysm or a blockage or whatever.
Dutyron, what we're forgetting here too is her husband Charles Vallow had a $1 million life insurance policy that she thought she was the beneficiary of,
and she wasn't.
He assured her she was, but he lied to her.
It. Right.
So, whoops. And the other thing is that the wife of Tammy, the wife of Chad Daybell, had a $450,000 life insurance policy. Jesus. So they all had reasons to kill these people.
Right. Money.
Yeah, money. Exactly. So when we talk about circumstantial evidence, put that on the scale,
Right.
As the scale rises and rises with the strength of circumstantial evidence.
And even her brother's death. I mean, he had Narcan in his system, they said he didn't use drugs, I mean, you can kill somebody with medication. You can kill somebody with insulin. There's a lot of ways to kill somebody.
Right. And it makes their heart stop. And then you can go, say, oh, they had a heart attack or they died suddenly in their sleep.
Right. So, there's no autopsy. That's it. It's done.
Yeah. Again, people dropping like flies all around her. And once she started with Chad Daybell, now don't forget, this is a guy who has books. He had his own book company that him and Tammy started. Lori Vallow comes on the scene, a pretty blonde. We've seen pictures of her all over the internet. There's, I don't want to give her the grand stage here, but she's a pretty blonde girl, and she's weaseled her way in, was a fan of Chad Daybell's books. While she was still married, she started having a thing with him, where she was engaging him. And then, and then the rest of this is history. And it's been reported that they went to Hawaii while her kids were already, the deed was already done. They were killed. She went over to Hawaii, got married with this guy, and then tried to tell her friend, hey, just say the 2 kids are over watching, you took them out to a movie and they're fine. And her friend wasn't totally okay with it. And she was the one who called the police, So
again, Ron, very strong circumstantial evidence that lie,
How many times have you guys as seasoned detectives seen homicide cases go forward with strong circumstantial evidence? Is it the majority? I mean, the minority? You don't see a lot of those things, but you had to have seen some, no?
Yes, you don't always have the smoking gun. You don't always have it, right?
Yeah, it depends.
Yeah.
Look, there's in New York State, I think ADA Dan Bibb got the first conviction of a murder without a body.
Wow.
So
everybody need
it does happen.
I'm going to play a quick clip, and if anybody here suffers from PTSD or any type of anxiety, I'm going to show you a quick. It's a short news clip. It's going to be about 3 minutes. It's from East Idaho News. They're going to describe to you Nate Eaton, who's covered this case from day one. He's done a great job. I got to say, I'm a big fan of this guy. He really is boots on the ground. He's gone to candlelight vigils. He's really invested in this case, and he's doing some great job of covering it. This is old, but it's going to describe to you the graphic details of how JJ and Tylee were found and discovered. So if you suffer from any PTSD, again, this is a disclaimer. Guys, if you don't mind, mute up the mics, and I'm going to put it on. Thank you. We're going to go full screen, so you guys will be off.
Okay.
Inside the EastIdahoNews.com newsroom, I have just finished writing a story. We're getting ready to post it right now on East Idaho News. It's just getting edited. Some disturbing, horrific, awful developments in the search for JJ and Tylee. Not the search, the recovery, I guess you can say. We got a probable cause document that was unsealed today from Madison County Prosecutor Rob Wood. He made the motion to unseal this probable cause document, and this details how JJ and Tylee were found. And I just want to tell you that it's graphic and it's disturbing, and it's not pleasant, but we do know that Tylee, apparently her remains were burned and she was dismembered. And she was buried in a different place than JJ was. JJ was wrapped in plastic and duct taped. And that's how police found them. Now, it's a series of events that led investigators to the specific sites on the property, but it boils down to Alex Cox's GPS cell phone coordinates and tracking that police were able to pull on specific dates back in September 9th, the last time Tylee was seen at Yellowstone. Within that 24-hour period, investigators were able to put a few pieces together, and they were led directly to where she was buried on Chad Daybell's property. And then weeks later, the same weekend that Melanie Gibb, Lori's friend, visited her in Rexburg, Melanie and her boyfriend David Warwick say that Lori was telling them how JJ had turned into a zombie. He had climbed onto the cabinets. And David recalls seeing JJ that night with Alex as Alex was carrying him out. And the next morning, they said, David said he wanted to say goodbye to JJ. He said, "Where is JJ?" And Lori said, "He's turned into a zombie and he's not here. Alex has him." Within hours, according to these documents, JJ or Alex was at Daybell's property burying JJ, we assume. Now, all of this, of course, these are all allegations that are coming directly from these court documents. We do know that the bodies were found separated from each other on the property, that police were able to narrow down the specific dates, and that they were able to go to the property and find these bodies. One interesting thing to note is that Chad and Tammy had a pet cemetery on their property in the yard. And Tammy loved animals. She would bury, if the ducks or the chickens would die, she would bury animals in this animal cemetery. And police were able to find out about this animal cemetery, and they went to her sister, Samantha Gwillem, in Springville, Utah, and said, "Are you aware of this animal cemetery?" And she said, "Well, yes, it's right here on the property." And she showed investigators with an aerial photo where that animal cemetery was, and that's right where police went. And that's where they were able to find the remains. They had an anthropologist from Boise State University on site there when they pulled up the remains, and they were able to find them. So horrible developments in this case. We're going to post the entire document that you can read for yourself. The police also attached the earlier probable cause from February, back when Lori was arrested. So you can read through those documents. We'll have a full report down below that you can read to kind of get a summary of what this said. But these are the latest developments. No murder charges yet for either Chad or Lori. That could be coming down the line. Of course, we know all along investigators have taken their time. They want to be very careful on this case. And within the past week or so, well, 2 weeks now, everything has kind of come together. So there is the latest.
Okay, so that's it. We're going to add you guys back in. Irma, I'll wait till you fix your hair.
Oh, my hair's fine. Okay.
I'm just teasing. Yeah. So we heard there that Chad Daybell had a pet cemetery on his property. He even went as far as texting his wife the day that the children were buried there. He texted her and said, "I shot, I think, a squirrel or a raccoon. I think it was. Yeah, it was a raccoon." Thank you, Irma. I knew having a first grade detective would help me on this live stream. But seriously, he went as far as trying to justify and cover his tracks, like, "Oh, babe, I had to shoot a raccoon today, and I buried it in the backyard," because he thought, maybe she might see it, because of her love for animals and things of that nature. So this shows and uncovers a lot of details about dismembering. Now, don't forget, one of the JJ was autistic as well.
Right.
And that's what makes this equally as double horrific. And JJ was duct taped and wrapped up. She talked about how she felt kids were possessed. And that comes from the radicalization of the religion and the things that Chad Daybell would preach and write in his books. I haven't read the books, but I have some people who are really following this case deeply, and they've sent me some clips of it, like of some of the pages, and it is some really sick. I mean, I had to bleep that one out, but it's some really sick stuff. And this guy is a tremendous piece of work. A narcissist to the 10th degree, a control freak, everything above. How many of your homicide cases that you've come across, Irma? Give the audience an idea of how many that you approximate worked on during the course of your time in Manhattan South homicide.
Like how many homicide cases I worked on?
Yeah, I'm talking about
so
everything.
Many.
Like hundreds, thousands
Yeah.
of people.
Not thousands, but maybe hundreds, you know,
Like with supplements, and I'm not saying cases that you were actually on, but your school, your squad, your team.
We did hundreds of cases, we did hundreds of cases, but on a case like that, like, narcissistic, the guy, it involves a child. It reminds me a lot of like Joe Steinberg case that I worked on. It reminds me a lot of that. The same type of personality, controlling, narcissistic. The child was killed. She turned on him at the end. So it's very similar to that case, especially when it involves children.
Right. Yeah. And, when a child is involved in these type of cases, for the investigators, for the detectives, it makes it not like we have to try to keep our like people say, oh, do you get personally involved? We're all parents, most of us. Right. So when we're investigating these cases, we have our kids at home. And it makes it like we really want justice to come forward. We do everything and anything, sleepless nights, 18-hour tours, sometimes working 48 hours straight, eating sandwiches in the break room, in a dirty, nasty, break room or in the locker room or whatever. It's just, it's an unbelievable taxing thing. And Bill, from being a supervisor, you had the A team. And you were on some heavy cases. You and I talked about some of your heavy cases. What are your takes on these investigators from Idaho, the state guys, the feds, everybody that's involved in it? Are they putting their all into this to bring this justice for these children that were brutally murdered?
I think absolutely. And the good thing about this is that they got a lot of swings at the ball. As I said, if they don't get a conviction on these destruction, alteration, and concealment of evidence, they still got the homicide charges. Right. And they may even have a couple of other homicide charges. And one of the things I wanted to say was that we're not privy to the forensic evidence in regards to the recovery of the bodies. There is a possibility that some of the little boy JJ the tape could have fingerprints on it, could have DNA on it. We don't know that. So all of that type of evidence is still, they may not even have released that to the defense yet. It's potentially smoking gun type stuff. Right. How were they both killed? The girl was set on fire and dismembered, but they can still sometimes find out how the person died through an autopsy.
See, on the girl's case, I wonder if she was abused, like if she was, if it was the father, if he did anything to her, any sexual, like either raped her, because I've seen that before where they burn the victim of a rape, they'll burn her, so I don't know if that happened on this particular case. But one thing that I really think that's the best about this case, that you have two bodies. At least you have two bodies. On a lot of cases involving children, sometimes you don't recover the bodies.
Right. Yeah, and that's helpful, but I also it's to my understanding that they're sealing a lot of the evidence. They're not releasing a lot of the evidence, and here this is outside of our realm as law enforcement professionals. But we can certainly tell you guys there's good reason why they're not releasing specific details, and it's because they will come out during the course of trial. So, because they're not exposing all their cards, now we live in a society of transparency. They want the police to give everything to them. And I'm not finding fault in anybody, because that's human nature. That is human nature. But we have to understand and get the message back out as law enforcement professionals that it's instrumental to a successful prosecution. And Irma and Bill, how do you feel about that? I mean, you guys agree with me there?
I totally totally agree. I think the less information the public knows in regards on how the person was killed or what happened should not be told, because the person who did it would know, or someone who witnessed it would be able to give us information that no one else would know. And that's one thing that, regarding evidence or just information being given out. When I worked in homicide, I personally did not like a lot of information being given out, because
Right.
only the perp would know what really happened. And if
Right.
it's on the news, then everybody knows.
Right. And that could harbor your apprehension of the actual perpetrator or a successful
Prosecution.
collar and prosecution.
Right.
Texas Sweet Bee, thank you so much for your becoming a member of the Dutyron family. Welcome, Texas Sweet Bee. Thank you. And thank you to anyone who's given Super Chat. If I did miss it, I've just been paying attention to my guests and getting to the story here. Thank you. I think it looks like 110 people here watching the live. I know there's a lot going on in our country, but these two seasoned detectives here, one detective supervisor, Bill Cannon, he has his own show. It's Police Off the Cuff. I encourage each and every one of you to subscribe to Police Off the Cuff. We're not ending. I'm just giving Bill a little bit of a plug here. I will link his channel down below in the description. Police Off the Cuff. Irma is a part of that show. She's on there all the time. That's how I was introduced to her. And I want to, say thank you to Irma for being in here, and also Bill. We're not ending, but I want to say thank you, because the reason I was able to get connected with Irma is through Bill. So thank you for introducing me to Irma. She's a tremendous asset to any podcast and live stream.
Every time I bring her on the show, people say, "Why don't you get rid of you or Mark and keep Irma?"
Yeah, no.
Yeah, well, she's a lot better to look
I'm
at,
kind
and
of stiff on these shows.
not only is she better to look at, she can out detect us. She's a great detective. She's worked on so many tremendous cases. Bill, you've talked to me about them. Lisa Marie, thank you for the super chat. First love, baby. Lisa Marie, thank you for being a very strong supporter of the Dutyron Live. Bill, how do you feel about what took place today? And then I'll get to Irma on this. How do you feel about what the defense for Chad Daybell and Lori Vallow, how do you feel about what they did here today? Do you feel that this was a waste of time, or do you think, and let's play devil's advocate here, do you think Prosecutor Rob Wood did overstep the ethics code when interviewing a potential witness? I didn't listen to the whole thing, and I know that you're a lot more thorough than I am, because I have a full-time job. So,
well, I watched the forensic psychologist.
Hold on, I'm going to put you full screen, and you let them know what you think of this.
Yeah, I watched the forensic psychologist, and he sort of dissected what the prosecutor was saying in his interview with the sister of the defendant. And he felt that he did, on several occasions, overstep his bounds in regards to, there's different ways to question someone. And one of the ways he did, which the forensic psychologist objected to, was that instead of using open-ended questions, he was using closed-ended questions. And, right. That's when you almost want and expect a certain answer. Like, "Oh, you didn't think she did it, did you?" Like something like that, where you want a certain answer rather than, "What do you think happened?" Which is a open-ended question and allows the interviewee to give a wide answer, And so he was criticized for that. Whether he overstepped his bounds or not, well, that'll be up to the judge to decide whether, and this is a strategy thing by the defense. They'd love to have to start over with a brand new prosecutor who may not even be as good as this guy, and maybe this is just a strategic thing they're doing to, to defend their client, who it seems like the prosecution has a really strong case against.
Yeah, and that was my next thing I was going to ask Irma, is if in fact it happens where they remove a Rob Wood, what's the next step? And it doesn't change the evidence. It doesn't change the case. It just changes the guy or girl who's prosecuting it. What's your thoughts on that, Irma? What goes on going forward? Have you ever been on a case where that has happened? I know I haven't.
No, I have not. No, I just think they're just trying to save time. They just, making it take longer, and just maybe so people forget. I don't really know why why they're doing this, and I really
Right.
didn't listen to the whole thing, so I can't really tell you. But I just think that the reason why they're basically doing that is just for time,
Right.
because you're supposed to like have a trial within a certain amount of time, and so far it's going to be a year that this case happened.
Right.
So I think they're just buying time.
So you think it's just a ploy tactic, maybe to buy some time,
Yeah, especially
and
with
maybe
COVID, the
right,
courts are
and
closed.
maybe to give them a little bit more of a chance because they might feel that this guy Rob Wood is really aggressive. He probably has a reputation of getting a high prosecution, success in prosecution in his cases. I don't know. I didn't look at his stats. I'm sure they're available online. But the picture I was showing is of the two victims, and that's really what this case is all about. This today there was a lot of people in that live stream from the court proceeding. The hearing. I keep saying prelim. It's not a prelim. The hearing from today about the witness and if it was inappropriate that the prosecution, the way he questioned her and things of that nature. Although she had her counsel there, and he found it necessary to record it because he got uncomfortable. We all heard that. But it's all about these two kids who were brutally murdered and victimized, and people were getting frustrated inside the chat of that hearing, not realizing that this is part of the process. And that's what happens, Irma and Bill, is a lot of the armchair detectives, Monday morning quarterbacks, the crime buffs who really don't know about the process. They're like, come on, let's get this nonsense out of the way. This is bullshit. Let's bring justice for these kids. But to get to the justice, this is the bullshit hoops that prosecutors have to go through to get to the finish line, right? So it's an unfortunate thing, but I want to show everybody. I'm going to go full screen with this, guys. I'm going to show everybody a timeline. I'm not going to read it all, but I'm going to go full screen on this so you guys are off. So this is a timeline from March 9th, 1990. It goes back, and I'll read just a small bit of this because I don't want to bore you guys with this. Chad and Tammy Daybell married on March 9th, 1990 in Utah. According to her obituary, the couple lived in Springville, Utah, where they founded the Spring Creek Book Company. And this is the book company I talked to you about, Bill. This is the company through which Chad Daybell, an author, published many of his books. The couple had 5 children before moving to their home in Salem, Idaho in 2015. Tammy Daybell worked as a school librarian. In 2006, marriage records show Lori married her 4th husband in 2006. Charles Vallow. Lori came to the marriage with her kids, including Tylee, the daughter of her 3rd husband, Joseph Ryan Jr. Family members say that in 2014, Charles and Lori Vallow adopted Joshua J.J. Vallow. He is the biological grandson of Charles' sister, Kay Woodlock, who is married to Larry Woodlock. Social media posts indicate that sometime in 2014, the Vallows moved to the island of Kauai in Hawaii. The couple operated a small business on the island as indicated by business records. The family then moved back to the mainland in 2016 and 2017. While the Vallow family lived in Arizona, Tylee's father, Joseph Ryan, died on April 3rd, 2018. According to the copy of the medical examiner's report obtained by East Idaho News, the cause of death was ruled a heart attack. Convenient, right?
Mm-hmm.
He was cremated. Once you cremate somebody, you're not going to be able to do, you're not going to be able to do. But little other information was available. They got away with that one. She got away with that one. So that was 2018. He died April 3rd. Almost 1 year before public announcement of the cases, Chad Daybell and Lori made their first appearance together on the Preparing a People podcast. Preparing a People's podcast. This is like the end of the world podcast. They talk about time to warrior up. The two appeared with others on several of the podcasts, many of which talked about the end of the world. Preparing a People has since removed the podcast and publicly disassociated itself from Chad and Lori Daybell. I wonder why. I wonder why they would rip that out, right, guys? So in 2019, we're getting to the end. I guess I'm going to read all of this. Body cam footage shows Charles Vallow attempting to have Lori receive mental health help at a community bridges on January 31st, 2019. Police through her thought her to have a normal state of mind. So the police medically cleared her. She was cleared by this community bridges. He tried to EDP her because she was probably talking like a crazy woman. January 31st, 2019. 2 months after the podcast began, Charles Vallow filed for divorce from Lori in February 2019, claiming she viewed herself as a god preparing for the second coming of Christ. According to the court documents, Charles Vallow also claimed in these documents that his wife would kill him if he got in her way to perform that mission. The divorce proceedings were later stopped by Charles, fatal mistake. He said he wanted to work out the marriage. During the divorce proceedings, the family says Lori disappeared. I got to mute your mic, Irma, because I'm hearing something on there. During the divorce proceedings, the family says Lori disappeared in February for nearly 2 months, leaving the children with others. It remained unclear where she went during 2 months, during the weeks before returning to the children. Around June, Lori Daybell's niece, Melanie Bordeaux, I'm saying the name wrong, demanded a divorce from her husband, Brandon Bordeaux, as first reported. Brandon Bordeaux claims his then wife affiliated herself with similar beliefs as her aunt and joined a cult, in quotations. The demands for a divorce came as a shock to Brandon Bordeaux, as he thought their marriage was in a good place. On July 11, 2019, Chandler police in Arizona discovered Alex Cox shot and killed Charles Vallow. Although the police are still investigating, Cox said the shooting was in self-defense. By the end of August 2019, Lori Vallow Daybell, the children Cox and Melanie Bordeaux, moved to Rexburg, Idaho. On September 2019, Tylee, JJ, Lori, and Alex visited Yellowstone National Park. That was the last time that they were seen in pictures. Officials said this is the last time that anyone saw Tylee. FBI asked for help. Anyone who could find photos from that day. September, phone records placed Cox on the property of Chad Daybell in the general area where investigators found the body of Tylee Ryan. Daybell texts his wife Tammy saying he shot a raccoon, just as we just spoke about before, and buried that raccoon in the same area. Once in Rexburg, Lori Vallow Daybell enrolled JJ in school September 3rd, Kennedy Elementary. The principal, Josh Wilson, told East Idaho News less than 3 weeks later, JJ attended a class and his mother unenrolled him, saying she would homeschool the boy. Tylee was not enrolled in school since she graduated earlier. October, Lori Daybell Vallow, 2019, October 1st, rents a 10 by 10 storage unit from Storage Plus in Rexburg. Surveillance cameras at the facility show Daybell and a man associated with her visited the unit 9 times in October and once in November. Often the man who appeared to be Alex Cox, Daybell's brother, came alone. October 2019, Brandon Bordeaux said he was shot at with a bullet missing his head by inches. Holy shit. The shooter was driving a Jeep registered to then Charles Vallow. Shocker. These are sick people that are intertwined in all of this craziness. That same day, Lori Vallow purchased a wedding ring on Amazon, later seen on her finger at a beach wedding. Now, was that beach wedding taking place in Idaho or in Hawaii? I thought that they went to Hawaii to get married, but I could be wrong. Let me know in the comments down below. Days later, on October 9th, Tammy Daybell called 911 and said a masked man shot at her with a paintball gun. She wrote about her experience in a Facebook post. She says she has no idea what the motive was. Well, we certainly do now. 10 days later, Chad Daybell called 911, said Tammy Daybell died in her sleep at their Salem home 10 days after she was shot at. Detectives visited the home and investigators ruled the death as natural. Tammy Daybell was buried at the Evergreen Cemetery in Springville on October 22nd. The family held a memorial service the next day. This is where it gets crazy. A friend of Tylee told the Post she received a text from Tylee's number on October 25th. Newspaper reports the text reads, "Hi, miss you guys, love you." We all know that probably wasn't from her. The Rexburg Police Department said in a news release that within weeks Tammy Daybell's death, her husband Chad Daybell and Lori Daybell were married. Within weeks, these two psychos got married. The couple married in Hawaii. There it is, on November 5th. before returning to Rexburg. Over the coming weeks, Rexburg police said Chad Daybell told witnesses that Lori Daybell had no minor children. Police also say Lori Daybell told people Tylee died years ago. Fucking crazy. On November 26, 2019, the Rexburg Police Department conducted a welfare check for JJ and requested the extended family who had not spoken with the boys in months, at the request of extended family that hadn't talked to the boys in months, with the boy in months. Police did not see JJ at the townhome, 565 Pioneer Road, and said the Daybells told him JJ went to stay at, this is the friend, Melanie Gibb, a friend in Arizona. When checking the story, police determined JJ never stayed with that friend. The next morning, November 27, 2019, Rexburg police served search warrants at Madison County Sheriff's Dispatch, indicated a phone ping at 565 Pioneer Road townhomes. The log also indicated the call related to the 7-year-old, now known as JJ, and homicide investigations in Arizona. When police arrived, they discovered the Daybells had abruptly left. Court documents indicated December 1st, 2019, Chad and Lori caught an American Airlines flight to Luau, Hawaii, on the island of Kauai. The couple did not fly with the children, according to police. September 6th, they contacted, Melanie Gibb contacted the police and said that Chad and Lori Daybell called her on November 26th to ask her to lie. So she cooperated, which was the right thing to do. But I think that this Melanie Gibb, was involved in that cult too. She was a little nutty, but God bless her for coming forward. Deputies uncovered more details. Fremont County Sheriff began calling Tammy Daybell's death suspicious. Investigators exhumed Tammy Daybell's body on December 11, 2019 and performed an autopsy. The results are pending. Interesting. On December 12th, 2019, her brother, Alex Cox, the brother of Lori Daybell, dies under mysterious circumstances. Here's another one bites the dust. In Gilbert, his autopsy revealed he died of a blood clot. Could have been done, Irma, by drugs given to him, like you talked about. I just unmuted. I don't know what it was. It was just a weird noise that was coming through. It was just in my ear. It sounded like someone scratching. So there's what Irma talked about. She could have poisoned him and caused a blood clot in in one of his arteries. December 20th, Rexburg police went public on their search for JJ and Tylee. Police also say the children's disappearance is possibly linked to suspicious death of Tammy Daybell. The following day, police called Chad and Lori Daybell's persons of interest in the kids' disappearance. On Monday, the following announcement, December 23rd, 2019, the attorney representing Daybell's, Sean Bartholic of Rigby or whatever, releases a statement called the parents loving and devoted. Yeah. Okay. He said that they will address the allegations once they move beyond rumor and speculation. Bullshit. 1 week after the public announcement, Rexburg Police Chief Gary Hagan told Idaho News that the investigators are no closer to finding JJ and Tylee. Investigators are using every tool available. December 30th, they issue an update releasing, say, we also have information indicating Lori knows either the location of the children or what happened to them. They called the parents' lack of cooperation astonishing, as the couple left the state rather than to help law enforcement. In 2020, local investigators' FBI search warrant was performed in Salem, Daybell's home in Salem on January 3rd. Fremont County Sheriff Humphreys says the investigators recovered 43 items, which include computers, cell phones, journals, documents, medications. These were sent to labs for further analysis. Irma and Bill, you guys both know where all the forensics goes to computer crimes. They do their scrub in the computer forensics on all of that stuff. So anything they deleted and tried to get rid of, they get as much as they can. And I'm not going to go any further with that. As investigators continue to look for the kids, JJ's grandparents, Larry and Kay Woodcock, traveled to Rexburg from their home in Lake Charles, Louisiana, to meet with investigators. While in town, Woodcocks held a news conference and announced the $20,000 reward for information leading to the recovery of their grandkids. These are beautiful young children. They're two extremely intelligent young children, and we want them back. We want them back in our family. Woodcock says we don't say the D word. We don't want to, and we're not going to, because we truly believe we can hope and pray these kids are alive. And, you know, such a shame that was not the case. My heart breaks for the grandparents and all the good people who have to suffer this heinous crime committed by these two freaking monsters. Chad Daybell's brother, Matt Daybell, pleads for him to cooperate with the investigation January 10th. The brother says Chad Daybell's immediate family had little association with the author due to the concerns with his religious claims and particular books he published, including his own. So his own brother and family is saying that, we're scared of this guy. He's a freaking lunatic. Fox 10 Phoenix obtains record including body cam footage detailing moments of Alex Cox, believed to be have shot and killed Charles Vallow. Police reports of Cox and Lori Daybell's story contradict one another. January 25th, the Kauai Police Department serves Lori Daybell with a notice that she must produce JJ and Tylee to the Idaho Police Department and Welfare of Rexburg Police Department within 5 days. The county prosecutor says in this notice, blah, 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 blah. And basically, she, after police stopped them in Kauai on the beach, law enforcement seized the couple's rental car and searched their rental townhome in Princeville, Hawaii. January 29th, Woodcock filed for guardianship through the courts for his grandkids. On January 30th, she misses her deadline to produce the kids. February 3rd, Daybell Lori Vallow abandoned several of the kids' items inside a storage unit. Officers found bikes, scooters, winter clothing, photo albums, pictures of Tylee and JJ, sporting equipment. So she was discarding everything, this savage. On February 2nd, 2020, in February 2019, her brother Charles Vallow removed his wife Lori Daybell from a $1 million. Yeah, you talked about this, Bill. Right. Dateline airs the special. We're getting to the end of it, guys. I'm skipping over some of this. She waives extradition in Hawaii after spending 6 days behind bars. We all remember this. The waiver came after multiple attempts to reduce bail failed. March 4th, 2020, Lori Daybell appears in Kauai court. We all saw that, and her attorneys stand by her using her Fifth Amendment right to remain silent. Bullshit. She didn't want to incriminate herself, obviously, with her crazy rants that she probably would have made. Idaho authorities extradite her to Idaho, Rexburg, Idaho, March 5th, and land on airplanes at the Rexburg airport. I remember watching that live before the deputies drive Daybell to the Madison County Jail. Lori makes her initial court appearance. I'm going to skip all over this stuff. Basically, guys, this was a long, drawn-out process. I'm going to take this off and put my guest back on. Crazy, right? Craziness to the 10th degree. Let me unmute. Oh, you got it. Craziness to the 10th degree, and I'm sorry about that long reading. What a whole bunch of insanity that was able to take place with them leaving the country while her children were missing, get out on an American Airlines flight. It's just incredible the amount of movement that happened after these crimes were committed. And obviously, law enforcement didn't know anything until they dug the kids up. But, we all just want to see justice served here. And I think that the process takes a long time and it's frustrating for people. Bill, what's your thoughts going forward after this hearing or whatever the finality of whether they remove him or not? Are they going to go to an expeditious trial here? They're ready to go forward. Will they put a DA in right away? I'm sure there's one waiting in the wings, right?
Yeah, I think they're going to go forward. I think the prosecution has a really, really strong case. And I understand why they're not going with the murder right out of the box, but I think they could get a conviction on murder with all the circumstantial evidence. And they probably have a lot more evidence than we even know about that we're not privy to. So I think they have a prosecution has a really strong case.
Hey, Irma, could you talk about what goes on with basically with the computer stuff when they did the 43 documents, items that were taken? They said computers, laptops, cell phones, and stuff like that.
They're probably going to go in the computer and do like a forensic sweep on the computer and find out what what websites they visited, if they sent any emails out, if they Googled anything, which I've seen on other cases where people Google how to dispose a body, how to kill somebody. Like they could be checking like insulin, what kind of medications cause a heart to stop. They can research things and that's what a forensic team I think would do on a case like this.
Again, circumstantial evidence, but that's very strong when you pile it all up, right?
When I covered the Karina Vetrano, trial, that was, it happened over here in New York in where was that? In Howard
Brooklyn.
Beach, right? No, it was in Howard Beach, right? Queens,
Yeah,
Queens,
it's on the
Brooklyn
border
border.
Right,
between,
Queens
Yeah,
and
yeah.
border.
So it was in the 106. It was in the 106, and it was a hung jury, and I went to the second trial with my YouTube channel rolling, and I filmed not inside the courtroom, but I filmed outside the courtroom, and I sat in for opening. And the interesting part, Irma, is what you just brought up is the Google stuff. When they went after the perpetrator in this crime, which was a young kid, I think he was 18 or 19 years old, they went after him, and in the opening that was 35 minutes long, the Queens DA said he was searching is the death penalty in effect in New York State, and how to delete your timeline history. Like, so he was, because when they came to his house to question him and he gave up his DNA, unbeknownst to him, he didn't realize that they had, collected DNA off of her body. But
Mhm.
when they collected the DNA, he knew afterwards, because one of his family's members told him, "Hey, you're fucked," and he started trying to Google how to delete his history, because he was looking up this girl's social media after he killed her. So,
See, and that's, can I say one thing about that? Like on a case like that, for instance, even with children, sometimes the cops, like, you're worried about how you're going to approach the family, because sometimes you might suspect the family, but at the same time, you don't want to kind of like make waves with them. You want to still keep them on your side. And like on that case, Vetrano's case, they were blaming the father at first, and imagine
right.
being blamed for killing your child when you didn't do that, how upset and angry you are at everybody, the police, the prosecution.
And he
So
was a
you gotta be very,
retired fire guy too.
right. So you
So,
gotta be very careful on these cases when it involves children and family. Sometimes you don't want to be too aggressive with them,
right.
even though you might think they did it, you got to kind of like keep them on your side a little bit.
I agree. You got to keep them close to you, because a lot of times they wind up giving you the little piece that you might need. But yeah, that was just an example of how when they go and they grab this kid's phone and they did the scrubbing, the computer crimes here in New York, the greatest detectives in the world, the NYPD computer crimes guys went and they took his phone and they scrubbed it, and a lot of this stuff came up. I want to hit to the audience for some questions. If anybody's got any questions for my two guests, Irma Rivera is a retired homicide detective, first grade from the NYPD, 26-year veteran. Am I right about that? 26 or 27?
I've been out 13 years, yeah.
There you go. She's out 13, but she did 26. And Sergeant Bill Cannon, retired homicide sergeant with 27 years of service. Anybody got any questions for my guests? And I want to say a special thank you to my Patreon supporters, my channel members, and everybody who supports me here with Super Chat, and all of your positive interaction. You guys are tremendous. I thank you for backing the blue and supporting our men and women across the country, across the world, who go out there and put their lives on the line day in and day out. And my two panel members here served with me in the greatest police department in the world, in my opinion, the NYPD. And I can't thank you guys enough for your support. Almost 100 people collectively on average here in the chat, and you guys are awesome. Beth Higgs, retired corrections from Illinois, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong, Beth. You served quite a bit of time in the jail system. Thank you for your service. Lake Lizard says, thank you both for your service. And there's Matt Sully. His father's a retired, he's passed away since, but a retired Brooklyn North duty captain. There's Matt Sully. Thank you for your service to our country and the Marines, and your dad for his service in the NYPD. Retired Sergeant Melinda, down over in the South. She served in the military. Thank you for being here, retired Sergeant Melinda. Any questions? Okay, here we go. Ron, also one of the most dangerous. I don't know if that's a question. I support the thin blue line always, says 12-Step Mom. Thank you. Yeah, so nobody's got any questions for it. You guys are getting off the hook easy tonight here.
Good.
I thought they'd have a slew of shit to throw at you guys and questions. Bill, maybe they're intimidated by your glasses, or is it mine? Maybe it's my glasses. Like, hey, we'll put the big spotlight. Hey, where were you on the day in question? Okay, so if we don't have any questions, I'm going to wrap it up. Listen, what we pray for is justice for the victims always. Any detective, I don't care what department you work for or what country you're doing law enforcement in, our model is to go and get the bad guys and bring them to justice. Here's a question from one of my channel members and a Patreon supporter. Ron, my question is for Irma. Do you think the death penalty will be assigned in this case in Idaho?
I'm not really sure. I'm not sure if I'm not really sure if it will be, but I think the death penalty, I don't really 100% agree with the death penalty. I think people should rot in jail. That's the way I feel, but I think it may be. I really don't know. I don't know what the laws are in Idaho. I don't know what their death penalty laws are.
Yeah, I'm not 100% on that. But Irma, my aunt is a Catholic nun, and I was raised Catholic. So, we're not supposed to, like for me, religion wise, you're not supposed to be for that. But I mean, I was when it was here, and one of my squad members was shot and killed in '96, Kevin Gillespie, and when his perps from that up in the Bronx, when the perps from that crime were taken in, I was all for the death penalty. They took Robert Johnson off the case in the Bronx. He didn't want to prosecute under the death penalty, and George Pataki was the governor at the time, and he took off the Bronx DA, and he put in Dennis Vacco. I'll never forget that. But my aunt, who is now in her late 80s, still alive and well, she's a sister of mercy, and she came to me and said, Ron, it's not, God doesn't want, you're not supposed to take a life, and they deserve to be in jail and, spend the rest of their time in jail.
Yeah, I'm not religious, but I just think that being in jail is worse than dying.
Yeah. We talk about that Chris Watts case too. He annihilated his whole family over in Colorado. He killed his wife with his unborn son and his two beautiful daughters, and he disposed of the kids in separate oil tanks in an oil field, and then dug a shallow grave for his wife. And I say to myself, this guy deserves the chair. I would hit that button easily and not even think about it. But you're right. If he sits there and has to think about it day in and day out, and that has to haunt you.
Some people deserve it. They really do, some people. But it takes too long for the death penalty. It just keeps getting postponed and postponed and postponed. So it's the same thing, even if they spend a lot of time in jail. It's just like the death penalty is another thing that the courts kind of, stretch out. It lasts forever. You could be on death penalty for 20 years, on
right.
death row for 20, 25 years.
Yeah, they just keep going for stay of execution.
Yeah, and they're by themselves. You're better off just leaving them with a major population. Let whatever happens to them happens.
So Irma, I guess the questions are being thrown at you. Mimi J2 says she's a channel member, a great supporter. She's also a moderator here. She says, at Irma, would you categorize the Chad Daybell and Lori Vallow as serial killers or potential serial killers?
I'm a little bit suspicious of her. I wonder if she may be we don't know what she's done. We don't know if she killed her fourth husband, if she had her brother kill her other husband. We don't know that much about her. She's a beautiful woman. She looks very pretty on TV and on the news, but you got to remember, even though she might look like she looks like a really good person, you don't know what she's like really inside. She could have been the one that had him do it. We don't really know. We don't know what really happened. We could assume that it's him because he's the guy, but it could have been her. Her whole history. There's so much history behind her. So I think she could be a serial female killer. She can be.
Yeah, I'm gonna pull up a picture of her in one of her court appearances. This was, I think, when she was extradited. And I hate to do this, but I want to show people she's a decent looking woman. And I think, and then that was her third husband, Bill, or fourth. This is the $1 Million Life Insurance.
Charles Vallow, yeah, I think third husband.
Charles Vallow.
He's dead also.
Yeah, she killed them all.
Even her brother's dead. Her brother, I'm really suspicious about her brother, because if he knew something about her, she could have wanted to get rid of him.
Right. And that's the thing is I feel like she manipulated him into helping her dispose of the kids. That's and said, if you do this for me, I'll give you, maybe it was money, or maybe she promised him something. But then they both got together, I feel, after the fact, and had buyer's remorse that they brought him in on it and said, hey, we got to kill him.
Yeah, of course.
Dead
Yeah.
men tell no lies, right, Bill?
Of course.
That's for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I think. That's what I think happened with that.
Yeah. Any other questions here? Yep. So Lake Lizard says, yep, she's a serial killer disguised as a wife and a mother.
Yep.
And I believe that she used her good looks to really lure in
Of course.
her victims. Like her husband wanted to leave her, and then she sweet talked him back into giving it a second chance so she could finish him off. And that's what she did.
And then JJ was not really her biological son either. JJ was not her biological son.
Right.
And that's another thing. I mean, she might want to get rid of the kids. I mean, that happens. I've seen that happen on homicide cases where the mother wants to get rid of the kid, so the kid dies, and now she's with her boyfriend.
So someone says here, the lawyer of Loris is dead too. She even bragged that she didn't have to pay the bill now.
Holy crap.
Now that he was dead. Holy shit. Thank you, Huts.
I don't know how he died.
What would you make of this screen name? I don't even know how to say it. Hot Scorpio Rogue? I don't know. That's the first time I've seen that one. Sergeant Melinda, thank you so much for your support and all of your kind words. I appreciate it. All right, Bill. Holy crap. You got a question. At Bill Cannon, my question is, are murderers of adults and children generally more dangerous? I think any killer is dangerous, but Bill.
Yeah, that's for sure. I mean, usually people that kill children are related to them. Most of the time, the murderers. That's true in most murders. Period. 50 to 60% of the time, the perpetrator and the victim are known to each other, but specifically more so with children because it's so much more common for family members to kill children.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you guys have seen quite a bit, and I'll just do this one time round table. And I hate to put you guys on the spot, but I'm going to do it because this is for the audience. What's your Irma? What, ladies first? What is the biggest case that you worked on? It doesn't have to be a homicide. Biggest notable case.
There was a few, but I would say Joe Steinberg.
So Joe Steinberg, give
Lisa
the
Steinberg
audience.
homicide.
Give the audience, because they're from all over the country, all over the world. Let them know just a little bit about it. Just a synopsis.
Joe Steinberg was an attorney who had a daughter that he had adopted, and his wife was a publisher, a writer, and he was abusing his wife back then, had a Nussbaum, and his adopted daughter. He wound up killing her. It was a real big newsworthy case, the fact that he was, he came from an affluent family. He was an attorney. And it was one of the first cases of child abuse that, we had in New York that kind of opened up the doors for a lot of child abuse investigations and how the system changed. Right.
That was a really, it was a huge case. I remember it vividly. It was all over the news. And
I had a different hairstyle.
Yeah. I wish I was more prepared, Irma. Next time I'm going to have some, I'm going to do some screenshots, and I'm going to ask you to send me.
I wasn't prepared either. Sorry.
This was all last minute because of everything that happened.
She would have baked the cake had she known.
Bill, go ahead with your case, and I'm sorry that I'm putting you on the spot because I know you don't like it.
Right after 9/11, in December 1st, it was 2001. We had 4 murders that day in the 2-3 precinct. We had 1 double and 2 singles. It sounds like you're seating someone for a restaurant, but the double was a really interesting case where a middle-aged woman named Carmen Quinones and her boyfriend Ruben Frederick were stabbed to death in a brownstone on East 101st Street. And at first we thought it may have been a drug-related or gambling-related or prostitution-related. But then when we started doing our checks, we found out that the building was totally clean. And what we found out after a lot of investigation, a lot of detectives involved, was that it was a murder for hire. And Carmen was murdered for the brownstone. Her ex-husband lived on the 3rd floor with his new wife. And his new wife hired guys from the Bronx to kill Carmen so that she could inherit the building.
Wow.
And this case, when it was finally over, 5 people were arrested for this murder.
Wow.
And they were stabbed to death, which is a horrible, horrible way to die. Both victims were stabbed like 15 to 17 times.
Jesus.
And the case took like 4 or 5 years to totally get everyone convicted. And
Wow.
the woman who, her name was Maria de Jesus, that was her name, the new wife. And it took us 4 years to lock her up because they didn't have a solid case against her. And once we picked her up after 4 years, and it was so great to be there when she was arrested. And one of the detectives, Tony Rivera, said something in Spanish to her. And he said, "It's all over, you little bitch," he said in Spanish. And I just saw her face turn to like evil. And she got life without parole.
Good. And that's the deal being sealed by a hard work of the detectives. It's over, you little bitch.
Yep.
Use the word. But yeah, man, that's great stuff. You guys are a tremendous asset to anybody's podcast and live stream. So I want to say on behalf of the Dutyron subscribers and family, my Patreon, my channel members, and everybody here in the 21, we're approaching 22,000 subscribers. And between here and Twitter, we have over 30,000 subscribers. So I'm going to link Bill's Police Off the Cuff. I encourage each and every one of you, please go on over, subscribe to Bill's channel. We're going to get Irma to start her own channel. I think she's going to be. They're already pushing Mrs. Homicide with her.
I'd rather be a guest once in a while.
All right.
Yeah, she could be the floating guest.
I work a lot too. I'm like you.
I know. Yeah, me and you, we're the only suckers that are still humping it out.
I love to work.
Yeah, me too. But Irma, would you please consider coming back for more? Yeah, because we have a lot of cases where we'd love to, the audience and myself would love to hear your take on it, because you have so much, investigatory experience, and working for the largest police department in the United States. We have a big advantage. So you are a tremendous asset to my channel, and I'm glad that we've become friends here through this podcast. Really, really awesome to have you, Myrna. So thank you for coming. It went a little further than what I thought, because we have so much great stuff to talk about, and you guys are awesome. So everybody subscribe to Bill Cannon on Police Off the Cuff. I'll link it down below, and definitely interact with him. Leave him comments, leave him questions. He loves to. Bill is very interactive. He likes. I'm trying to show him how to be interactive a little bit more, but he's trust me. He's coming a long way there. So it's all good. Thank you guys for coming. I want to wish everybody God bless the world. God bless the United States of America, and God bless each and every one of you here. We need it. This is indeed difficult times, but we're going to get through it, guys. So thank you from New York. Yes, thank you from New York to my guests. Thank you to everyone in the chat, and especially the replay viewers. I have thousands and thousands of replay viewers. I appreciate you guys. Keep liking, keep sharing, keep subscribing. Go over to Dutyron.com and see all the stuff that I have there on my website, and consider becoming a Patreon. So thank you guys. Good night from New York City.
Thank you. Good night.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.